Hey y'all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and I'm joined by John.
Oh, hey, yo.
And we got Thomas.
What up, what up?
We're going to be talking about trailers all day. It's the Oops All Trailer episode. And we're going to end off with a wonderful interview with Braxton Cosby, talking about his entire book line. He's got so many books. It's really fascinating hearing about somebody who's doing this world building. Before we get into these trailers, I do want to touch on our Patreon. Starting next week, we're going to be releasing episodes early on Patreon, both video and audio. We're also newly announced going to be giving away, because I was trying to figure out how to do giveaways over there. We're going to be giving away movie codes for upcoming movies over there. We have some really good partners now that are giving us, like, especially Paramount movies early and stuff like that. So what a great place to share it is over on Patreon. 3 movies that we're going to be giving away is one's called September 5. Fantastic under the radar movie. You probably haven't even heard of it yet, but you got to check it out. We also have One of Them Days with SZA and Keke Palmer. And then we're also going to be giving away Better Man. All 3 of those movies are going to be available on our Patreon starting next week. It's first come, first serve, but we're going to be giving away as many codes as we could possibly give to you guys. So just go and check that out. All right. So let's get right into these trailers, guys. We had the Super Bowl. First off, what was your guys' reactions to the Super Bowl itself?
I thought it was kind of a bummer because it was so one-sided. It was at halftime, you could have just turned it off and you would have known what the end game was going to be. So I don't know. I love it. I don't care who wins for the most part. I don't follow football year round like a lot of people. I just want a close game. Any sport that I watch, I just want it to be neck and neck, and maybe the underdog, wins in the last 10 seconds or whatever. But no, it was the farthest possible, outcome to that. So it was all right.
Yeah, like I just wanted it to be, to your point, John, close game. Just something entertaining. Yeah. I'm really surprised Kansas City got whomped that bad. That was wild. But yeah, the better team, I guess, showed up that day, and then I was like, all right, I'm here for the games, but I'm really sticking around at this point for the trailers and for the commercials.
Yeah.
And there were some good ones in there. I think was it as good as some of the other years, though? I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
One person I heard talking about that was saying, it's because AI is too involved in the creation process now. Because a lot of the commercials felt super generic, not pushing the limit or trying, memorable. One of the things with Super Bowl commercials is that you are discussing it the next day. There were not a lot of that. The only thing outside of the actual movie trailers that was discussed was the fact that Pringles and one of the other ones had very similar commercials with flying mustaches and flying eyebrows.
Yeah.
And those 2 companies came together to joke about it. But that was it. And it's that's a mistake that happened. That's what we're talking about. That's boring.
Yeah. My wife and her cousin's fiance, basically, one that grossed them out was there was this kid, it's a baby born with a cowboy hat. His head is shaped like a cowboy hat. Every time that one came on, they were like, ugh, gross, that's disgusting. And they hated that one. So I remember that one because they were so icked out by it, which was I don't even remember what it was for. I don't know, but it was a weird commercial.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, I can't remember how. And there was one of them where there was a tongue dancing a lot, and I couldn't tell you whose commercial that was.
There was a lot of them we couldn't tell. We were talking about one of them where we couldn't tell what it was, and it was women's football league.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
What is this? Nike or Adidas or something like that, and then it ends up being a women's football league. It's okay, you guys could have put that somewhere in the beginning so we know what we're. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wait till the last little bit to try to get a clip of something that tells you what it is.
Right.
Just too forgettable. All right, let's go ahead and start breaking down each of these trailers. But let's start with the one that came out the football week. I'm sorry. And let's get started with Fantastic Four: First Steps. To me, I wanted to see what the Thing looks like, and we definitely got a lot of that. And he's more comic book accurate than we've ever seen him in live action. I was blown away by that, and the entire vibe, the '60s vibe. I think that's selling this movie harder than anything else is to me. I'm excited to visit this world.
Yeah, I like the vibe too. It feels like they really made it cohesive. They did put a lot to make it all kind of fit together, but not in a way that it can't also translate into the rest of the MCU.
Yeah.
And I do like the look of the Thing, but I don't think, or so far, I'm not in love with the voice. I feel like, when you see him, you're going to expect kind of a rough, gruff, gravelly kind of voice, and he's just doesn't have that. Maybe he'll play into it a little bit later, or we'll just get used to it. But he kind of reminds me of the rock guy from Thor. I can't remember his name now.
Korg.
Yeah. How you see him, same thing. He has this kind of nasally, whiny voice, and they're like, wow, that totally doesn't seem like a rock character, but you know,
Yeah. Well,
maybe we'll get used to it with him quick.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing. And I've seen that, but a lot of people have rightly pointed out his voice doesn't change. So like when you look at the cartoons and stuff from like the 80s and everything, like that's one part or aspect of the thing that doesn't really change. People do have that idea, right? Because you hear him clap, you see his face, but like his voice for the most part is the same because nothing internally really has changed for him. He's still blood and skin and muscles in there. So that's like the interesting thing about it. I also do like, yeah, just other people pointed out for people who grew up in New York, he has a perfect New York accent. And that's what he's supposed to sound like. He's supposed to sound like a Yancey Street guy. Like, hey, you know, let's put a little extra garlic in there, you know, not because it's not delicious, just needs a little zip. And so like, I do like Evan's voice for it, for me personally, just because I think he's a perfect match for the character. Like when I read the comics, you're right. Like it doesn't necessarily, I don't read it in Evan's voice, but I do have a voice that sounds like Evan's. And so for me, like it really works, I think in a lot of ways. And him being Jewish and the character being Jewish, I just like, I don't know who else they would have picked. Like it just seems so spot on for me in some ways. So I love the thing in this. I think he stole the show. The part where he's looking at the video of him pre-launch as like a human, normal human. And then the TV shuts off and he's staring back at himself and you can just see how destroyed he is. Like, yes, that is the thing. I think they nailed it on that. And then just, yeah, we haven't even gotten to like all, you know, you guys kind of brought it up a little bit of like the vibe and everything. God, the vibe is just so right for this trailer. So good.
With his voice, I never really thought about the Thing's voice in comic book and stuff like that, but now I'm wanting to revisit it. I guess I don't know enough about him for that, but I do want to add for the sound design that we don't hear in other things is his name being Thing is going to be fun. We keep messing with that. Here's the other thing, is the constant move of gravel while he's moving around. Like it's in the textures. And I think I hear it like in the video game version of him, but I don't remember ever hearing it in the movie version of him, where it's just constantly this undertone of like gravel moving as he's like touching things, which shows that like, it's like layers deep, the rocks that are on his skin. And so like the layers are moving underneath him. So that's just kind of a cool little audio design I thought that they did. And I can't wait to see that play out throughout an entire film.
I mean, the sound effects, the score in that trailer and how they sync it up with all the different characters intercutting.
Yeah.
Damn, that was such a good trailer. And, you know, I think we put it out there on one of our many pages and stuff, but it was like, which one do people like more? The Superman trailer or the Fantastic Four? And on that thread, I remember like it was 75% of people said they like the Fantastic Four trailer more. So I thought that was pretty interesting, although they're both really hopeful. They're both really like, this is going to be a fun, positive movie, which I'm super on board with. The real world sucks right now. So I just kind of want like to escape to something. And God, just the way that Pedro's playing it up, or Invisible Woman being this heart that's going to like bind the team, or Johnny being this young kid who's trying to figure out life, and then the Thing adapting to his whole life being flipped upside down. All of that stuff I think is apparent in this short trailer. And then you throw in Galactus looming over New York City. Oh God, dude, it is. I'm so on board. I'm going to watch this movie like 3 times when it opens the same day.
Speaking of that, Pedro and the Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic relationship, I think we're going to see a lot of that, you know, Mr. Fantastic diving into his work, seeing that it's what's going to save humanity. And on the other side of that, Sue is the one that's like keeping the family together, keeping him kind of, you know, centered. And it's like she's expanding her force field around the family to protect everybody together. I think there's a lot with that couple. And I think this is going to be a really good example of seeing how that couple works to get better together. And everything we're seeing, all the art I'm seeing coming out of this is always the two together. Very little of one by themselves. It's like the duo together. That is such a cool. And I think that, I mean, I don't think this planet has long to live. I think we're going to see the end of this planet by the end of this movie. But maybe she's pregnant at the end of it, because one of the things that's not been explored in live action so far, but is vital in the comics, is their 2 kids. So it would be awesome if we got a little teaser like, by the way, not only we're in a new universe, we're bringing new life, you know?
Yeah. And there's hints at it too in the trailer, especially the scene where she walks in to see Johnny. Like if you look at her shirt, I mean, maybe it would be a really tiny bump, but it looks like there's a little bit of bump. And also people think the first part where they walk in out of the elevator, where they're showing that guy around, that it's kind of doctored. And if you slow it down, she does kind of walk a little bit wobbly. like a pregnant lady might. So there is a chance that maybe it's altered so that she is already pregnant when we first see her in the trailer, but they kind of took it out. You know, like how Marvel did Infinity War, where we thought we were getting the Hulk in Wakanda, and then it was actually like the Hulkbuster armor. It could be that too. And the more I see it now, the more I'm like, oh, she already looks pregnant.
Interesting. That's cool. So what are your thoughts on the suits? They're different than we've ever seen before in live action.
Yeah, I mean, I think it plays into the vibe, right, of this, kind of retro, but it's like a different retro than our planet, but got the modern polish on the old style, and I think it'll translate well, I think, into them shifting universes and joining with the rest of the Marvel. I think it'll look cool. It definitely, I think it does a good job at bringing comic book to live action, bridging the two.
Is that more important now today than it has been in the recent history? Because I think that's one of the things people complain online about everything. But as long as you stick to the comic books, then like there's nothing to complain about. The thing you guys like is what it's based off of. Do you think that that's something that both Marvel and DC are trying to strive for?
I think that does good if you only want the comic book fans to go to the theaters. But if you're trying to get the mass audience, then you got to find a way to bridge the two, which I think they do good here. But we've seen movies, I can't think off the top of my head of them, but we've seen movies before that stick too rigidly to the comic books and it doesn't.
Watchmen, probably.
There you go. Yeah, it doesn't really translate well on screen, and vice versa. We've seen, comic book stories be bastardized and, doesn't have any of the original content or anything. So hopefully, we'll see. But it looks like visually that's a kind of a good mix of the two.
Yeah.
I think one of the elements that might be a problem is, again, with Galactus. As much as I'm excited to see Galactus, I think for those who might not be necessarily familiar with the story, a giant dude standing next to Earth might not look cool,
Yeah. I think what Marvel did that was really smart, and I know a lot of people don't like this movie, but the Eternals, having that and having Celestials out there and us becoming more comfortable with it, I think that was I feel like I said this back when the Eternals came out, but it was like, they need to make that happen so that we accept Galactus. Because if we don't have these other godly, enormous beings out there, then Galactus shows up and he just starts like stomping on the city. We'd be like, okay, Marvel's lost it. But in a world where the Eternals have been explained and there's one hanging out in the middle of the ocean that we're just about to see in Captain America, it's like, all right, well, there is other beings out there. Like who fights the Celestials or who stops the Celestials? Well, yeah, in the comics, Galactus basically eats and consumes these worlds because he doesn't want these Celestials to be overpopulating all these different universes. So like, I think it just works on so many levels. And the details on his helmet, if you like zoom in, like you don't look at it on your phone, like you watch it on your TV, there's so many like little cracks in his helmet. And there's all these like little windows and things, like almost people could be living inside Galactus. He's that big. It's pretty cool. Again, I don't know how he's going to look, but we kind of got a little teaser from the Comic-Con trailer and his eyes and everything, like with the music, and we're in John Williams' month on Challenge Accepted. Like the score is just, it's making me nervous for Galactus because I see all these cute kids running around and they're on this 60s attire and they got these little, ships and all their Fantastic Four toys. Yeah. To your point, Frank, I'm worried about them kids.
They ain't getting a chance, man. That's going to be so fun to see this like family that's well established in the 60s universe. Like we keep calling it 60s, but a lot of the technology that's showing off is modern technology. So it's not that it's 60s exactly. It's just that it's that look like has 60s. Kept going. Right.
Yeah.
And so when they get thrown into like modern day New York and, and it's like, hey, we use tablets or whatever. I don't know. It's going to be weird. It's going to be so jarring for these people. And that's just built into the next Avengers movie or the sequels. It's going to be fun to see that. It's kind of what we got with Captain America and what we got with Thor back in the old days, where a lot of the comedy was seeing those two react to our modern world.
Man at a time.
Do you guys know if or do they ever explain why Galactus is like a humanoid? At that scale, you would think a creature would not be a human shape anymore unless they're from a planet that is 1,000 times bigger than our planet. Is that the case?
You could thank Jack Kirby. Basically, he helped create the character, and then there were some funky things at Marvel, and so he left. And then when he came back, they decided to like give him an origin story of like a human that got sent out and then became like this intelligent being because of like how time differed and stuff like that. And then thus Galactus was formed, and it's wonky. I don't know if they're going to go with that. If I was them, I wouldn't go with that. But also like because of Jack Kirby, you got the way he looks. And also one character that they didn't show in the trailer was Silver Surfer, which has always been attached to, and Frank, like the the actress that's a part of it was from Ozarks, but they didn't show her at all. And then also, it's a different Silver Surfer than we've got in the normal 616. So really even leaning more into this is a completely different universe, which is so smart because in the multiverse saga, we've only been to one other multiverse, really. So it's like, and we didn't really care about that one. So this one, we should have another universe we care about, and we should see what it's like when it gets destroyed.
We also didn't get a Doctor Doom, which we know is going to be RDJ. What do you guys think? How are they going to introduce Doctor Doom into this?
I think it's end credit scene. What's going to happen is I think it's going to be confined. And I like this theory too, that this movie could take over the course of a year because, again, to your point, we got Valeria coming, we got Franklin, those kids need to be born. And so it's going to take time. So I think some of the shots we see early on, documentary style, back to them going up on the ship. Well, I think we're only going to be intercut with some of the first mission where they get their powers. But I think it also shows us that they're already on a new mission going up into space. And then Reed is trying to figure something out. So that gives them a perfect reason to not have Doom in the beginning. I think at the end, because of the Galactus threat, we get Doom towards the end. He's already in Latveria. He's already detached from them. And so it would take him, X amount of time to get there. And then if we see him, it's either after the Fantastic Four have already beat Galactus or he's disposed at some moment. So I think we get him right at the end or in an end credit scene.
I think if we do get, we are going to get him, but I think at this point too, we're going to get him and he'll die with the planet, because I think then when they get to our planet and they hear about this, this Victor Von Doom walking around, he's like, he might not have the same face, but we know that guy. And also them being a fish out of water. Imagine them seeing the many monuments to Tony Stark.
Yeah.
His face on there.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I throw out a different theory just to hear what you think?
Of course.
Okay. So what if he actually escapes, but not with the Fantastic Four? He escapes his own way. And then he uses the fact that this whole universe got destroyed as motivation to not let it happen in his new universe.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many ways you could do Doom, but that would be such an easy way to be like, listen, your Tony Stark is dead. I have the answers. This guy's going to screw you over. He's the reason Galactus came and destroyed this other universe. I'm your answer.
That would be weird because they're heroes in this universe. So if they go to ours after Victor did that, then they would be seen as vilified like the X-Men are. And it would be such a different position for them to be in. They're not the hero astronauts anymore.
But with this, I mean, will people believe him or will people believe them? Who knows?
They'll probably won't believe him at first, but then after this next Avengers movie, when things take a turn, and all of a sudden he's ruling their world. That's
exactly.
I don't know if you remember that Voyager episode, Frank, where there's the two ships out of sync with each other, out of phase with each other. The whole time you're rooting for there's one that you think's going to survive and one that's not. Well, it's the one that's almost completely destroyed that's able to, get out of sync and be repaired or whatever. So the good one had to be sacrificed.
Dang. That's heartbreaking.
Okay, so I had to look it up because I was like, that doesn't sound 100%. But so here it is. The origins to Galactus. So Gallon was his first name, and he came from a planet called Taw, which is from the universe before. Because this is like the seventh version of the universe.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
So he's from the universe before, and then he survives the destruction of his universe, comes out of the cosmic egg with all kinds of new power because he survived and he's in a new universe. And he finds out that this power, to fuel it, needs the consumption of planets. Then he starts consuming planets.
Yeah.
And he comes across Silver Surfer's planet. I can't remember his name exactly, but in a desperate plea to save his family, Silver Surfer's like, there it is. Yes. Yeah. And he's like, please let me try to find you in uninhabited planets and stuff like that to kind of like feed you. I'll help feed you first so that you don't take my planet. And so he's kind of the herald, as in he warns people that Galactus is coming, so that you could escape the planet and give you time to get off the planet so he could eat it. So,
okay,
I was like, I know he's from a previous universe. I was trying to remember how that happened, though.
I think I got Silver Surfer's origin like mixed in there. Because they've also changed him where he was like a human or whatever. But yes, that's it for sure.
And I'm just such a big Donny Cates fan. And when Thor became the herald for a while there, it was like, oh, so good.
So good, dude. Yeah.
Man.
Thor as a herald is incredible. There's so much they could do with it, but I'm excited to see the actress who plays Shala Baal in this. It's like, I want to see how she does. It's going to be cool.
All right, let's move on to our next trailer here. We'll stick with Marvel for a while. We got Thunderbolts. This trailer, the reaction I'm seeing online is for a lot of people, this was the trailer that convinced them this is going to be a good movie. I think, and I know we were talking about this a little bit before this, Thomas. I think one of the problems is that Marvel leaned in with a comedy with all the trailers for Thunderbolts so far, and this is the first one to show Sentry, to show the threat that's out there, to show that they might not win this battle, and that is reassuring to the Winter Soldier fans, to the people who like the more grounded heroes, and not necessarily like Suicide Squad's cool, but they get past the jokes pretty quickly and they have to win. And so if you're gonna do a Suicide Squad of Marvel, you have to get past the jokes quickly and win. And I think that was a big hit. What do you think, Thomas?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. This trailer showed all the stakes. And it's like, we've heard about the Sentry. Everybody's been Googling him. Everybody's making YouTube videos about who the Sentry is and what are his powers. But this one showed like, oh, the Sentry is scary. And there's something, that void that's out there consuming the city is like, how do you do it? And one of the best call outs, I think, in this whole trailer is when Florence Pugh says, so wait, let me get this straight. We're just a bunch of people who punch and shoot things. And so how does a bunch of people who just shoot and punch beat this like crazy power that's consuming the city? That I think is the most interesting thing about this team and how it's assembled, because it's like, how are you going to stop Superman? And who's also has like an evil spirit thing. I don't know. It's crazy. It was an awesome trailer.
We've seen dusting before with Thanos, but the way this dusting works, it's like so immediate. It almost looks like a flash bulb. Mm-hmm. And the way they like, boom, show up on the ground in front of them, like that looks brutally quick. That is scary. Jonathan, you're not super familiar with Sentry, but from the trailer, what did you get from that?
Yeah, so actually, the previous trailer was like, oh, that looks cool and whatnot, but this one definitely got me in the corner. I need to watch the other movies and get caught up with it. It like you guys are saying, it brought up higher stakes and it felt more like an action movie than it was kind of a more kid-friendly comedy action like we've seen before. So, definitely looks better than I thought originally.
Yeah, and then in this one too, I think we got an understanding of how the relationship is, where Val is using Winter Soldier to go get them all, because instead of Winter Soldier being just like, I was kind of wondering, how is he connected to this? He's a good guy. He's not on the level of these guys. So how is he? And it sounds like Val, who she represents the United States government and the relationship with the superhumans. Yeah, is like, hey, go get these kids, and then the Avengers are not coming back. It'll be interesting.
That is interesting, because I sorry, not to be that guy again. I feel like I have a counter theory as to.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So when you see that, like the trailer opens up with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, right? And then you see Bucky and she's like, the Avengers are not here anymore. He kind of looks upset about it. I have a feeling that he goes off to basically stop Val. So I think he assembles the Thunderbolts to kind of go against her, because her ace up her sleeve is the Sentry. And so
I love that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It came across to me that, because we see in this trailer too, that Bucky's recruiting them. And I was like, wait, what the heck? Because the first trailer, all we saw was him chasing behind them. He blows up the car. He punches the ground with that rope on his metal arm, and then they go flying, right? But in this one, it looks like he's actually not trying to hunt them down. He's trying to recruit them. So for me, I think like he's actually recruiting them because he knows Val has this like super weapon, and he can't stop them by himself. So that's kind of where my head went with. I don't know, could be completely wrong, but I think I was like, whoa, what if he's trying to get them on his side? What do you think?
We do have that scene where they all wake up. We know that we're going to get a scene where they all kind of like wake up in a room and find out that Sentry's in there, but he's just Bob or whatever. So there is something where like, are they testing them out at that point? And then at that, we're all wondering, what's the asterisk? So what if that asterisk is that Bucky's out there trying to make the Avengers? The asterisk is because he keeps calling them the Avengers, and then Thunderbolt's name keeps coming up. Because like maybe both two different sides are saying the name Avengers, which in the comic books are West Coast Avengers and stuff like that too. But like maybe that's what's going on. It's like everybody keeps using the name Avengers, so they have to use Thunderbolt's asterisk.
Yeah. I dig it. I like that theory too. That'd be amazing. It'd be so cool. We got Coleman Domingo in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. He's gone out publicly and said he'd like to be Norman Osborn for the MCU, like the live action. It'd be cool if all of a sudden he popped up at the end and like really did make the Dark Avengers. Like that would be sick. So who knows?
He's such a good Norman Osborn. He's probably the best part of that show.
Facts.
And then we're starting to get a little bit more of each of the characters too. Yelena seems to be a highlight to me. I think her relationship with Red Guardian. And then we also got a little bit of Bucky and Red Guardian, because with the What If, those two were kind of palling around. And I was like, this is what I want to see more of. And then in this one, finally got them kind of chatting, kind of doing some jokes while they were smashing a car into a thing. So the relationships coming out of this might be fun to kind of expand upon further in the MCU.
Yeah.
So it could be a good starting ground.
Like, that guy is so cool. Like, you know, like, where he's interrogating them. Oh man, I love that.
Oh man. Bring home Better Man. Buy on digital now. Experience the recovery and redemption of pop star Robbie Williams in the most original musical ever made. From Michael Gracie, the visionary director behind The Greatest Showman, prepare to be entertained with the Oscar-nominated story critics are calling jaw-dropping and wildly innovative. Includes over 45 minutes of show-stopping bonus features. Available at participating retailers. Buy or rent Better Man on Fandango at home now. Rated R from Paramount Pictures. All right, and then let's go ahead and head over to How to Train Your Dragon. We got another one for that. This one actually shows a lot more dragons. Jonathan, you're the dad of the crew. Is this a movie you'd bring Marco to?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, he's only 4 or about to be 4. So he's very much into full cartoon shows right now still. But I think this is something that he'll at least be entertained by while I can enjoy it. Something that he'll sit through. But I think it looks like a really good adaptation. You know, we're seeing a lot of this stuff. I think I would have loved for this to be a series instead of just a movie. But we'll see. Maybe the movie will be a big hit and then they'll do a series afterwards or something like that. But yeah, it looks cool. I'm excited for it.
It seems like they're trying to be as close to the original as possible without putting any extra flourishes on it. Is that a good move or a bad move?
I don't know. I think it's good. I mean, and they're probably going to be telling the exact same story or almost exact same story. So it won't be fresh and exciting, but that's kind of what they've done with most of the remakes, right? Most of these live action remakes is keep the story pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So I think it's good.
From what I think I read somewhere, it's the exact same director that did the animated version. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to he's like, I'm not going to mess with anything that I don't think needs to be messed with. Like all the scenes that we've kind of seen compared to the animated movie are like almost 1-for-1 recreations. So I think if anything, he's only going to add in stuff that like helps fill out the story or things he couldn't do in the animated series, right? So man, it looks badass. I think Toothless looks amazing.
Yeah. Toothless looks really good. And then we got our first look at that big dragon they fight at the end, like the enemy, and he does look super imposing. The way he like is breaking mountains as he comes out and stuff. And it's like, that is something I wanted to see in live action. I didn't know it yet, but I do. Gerard Butler is so excited about this movie, seeing him, returning to the same role as the dad and seeing him so on board with the movie, which has been a bit since I've seen him in anything. I'm happy to see him acting again because, he's Leonidas forever, but you want him to be successful in other places. And we got our first look at Astrid too. Any thoughts on Astrid? I think she looks good. Yeah,
I know there was like some drama online with the actress, but I think she looks killer. And yeah, I mean, not that much different from her character in the animated movie to me. It's like, and I know that girl is an amazing actress. I mean, her mom is a legend, and then she was just in The Last of Us. I mean, she's good. So I don't see any issues with her.
But yeah, it looks good. What I want is some more. I want some more footage that's not from the animated movie, if there is any. I think that would be really nice to kind of show like this is what else we're adding to this thing. Just so that the conversation is not constantly around like this is a 1-to-1 adaptation. This is real sharp. Lilo and Stitch. We had Stitch that they did this little run around where he was running around on the field. Dad really liked it. Our dad really liked it. It seemed to be a fan favorite for some. That was for sure. I think something about Stitch, because in the first one, they did like this thing where they remade like the Little Mermaid commercial and stuff like that, but then Stitch ruined it. So there is something to it where he's like so chaos that having him kind of just like Deadpool around works well for that character, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like meta in a sense, but his movie and stuff isn't necessarily meta, but like all the advertising for it is. It's like, how the heck? But the trailer was adorable, man. Like my wife and her friend were like so amused by it. They're like, oh my God, Stitch looks so good. We haven't seen Lilo at any of the advertising yet either, or like the rest of the cast. We've only seen Stitch, and I think people are on board. So whatever they're doing seems to be working. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way about it?
Well, I'm wondering, is this going to be just like the How to Train Your Dragon, where it's going to be a 1-for-1 remake of the original movies?
I don't know. Yeah. Would you want that?
I don't know. Like, I know we just talked about How to Train Your Dragon. Like, oh yeah, that'd be great. It was a good story. But then
but not for the next one.
Like, well, I don't want to do that with everything. I do want fresh content. Like, don't keep remaking the same story with just a different animation style. So I don't know. I mean, I think it'll grab the next generation. Maybe kids these days don't like the same cartoon style that we used to watch because that was the technology available at the time, and now there's a newer technology. So we'd have to watch a young, or have a young kid watch it and say, do they like the new animation better than the old? But
a couple more years for Marco, we'll have him be our on-scene reporter.
we gotta get Chesney corner. Chesney's
oh
corner.
my god, yeah, that's right. Chesney's so good.
Have her compare. I don't know.
She's
Lion
gonna age
King is
out
the
of it
only one I
pretty
know
quick,
that's yeah.
You know, we have Thomas here, who's literally from Hawaii. But one of the things I like to think about is how we'll get more of Hawaii. And I love 51st Dates. I could watch it any day because it was like a little slice of Hawaii. Like, you know, I know this is probably all bullshit, but to me, it felt like real life Hawaii. And I think that's part of Lilo and Stitch was like, it wasn't the hotels. It was just like real life Hawaii. And so maybe with the movie, we'll get more of that. With you here, Thomas, is anything I'm saying accurate at all?
Yeah, no, I think that's really well said, actually. You know, from 51st Dates, like Adam Sandler loves Hawaii, so he did all of it in Hawaii. And I agree with you. With Lilo and Stitch too, it needs to be, that's all part of the culture. So seeing it there, and actually they have a bunch of people who are native Hawaiians in the movie. Like the girl that they have playing Lilo, I don't know her name, but she's adorable. She's actually Hawaiian. I love it. I think it's so great, and I would love to see it set in Hawaii. Like I don't know where they're filming it, but yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, you're a real ally, man, for us. Our API friends out here. So I dig that. Yeah.
I am the kind of guy that steps off the boat and immediately gets my lay on and starts making jokes. Though I'm not. Don't get me wrong.
Hey, you know what? Like if you're coming respectful and you're there to have a good time and just give back, like, dude, have all the fun you want. We love it.
But that was one of the things because you know I was a kid when I watched it. Of course, a lot of us were, but I didn't know about the impact of Elvis in the Hawaiian community, and then like the way that she loved the Elvis albums, and then all of a sudden like that was a big part of the movie. I want that to be a big part of this movie too, and just there was so much that was so cool, kind of exploring that world. And I think this is a good time for us to revisit it again and just flush it out more. Like we could do it in live action now.
Well, what I would love is if this does good. The series was so good from this movie. The series, animated series afterwards. If they want to do a live action version of that, would be so cool. Because I think the spaceship and the other aliens and stuff like that, I think that would look cool because the animation style that they're using for Stitch. So to see in the series, they would find a new experiment, new creature each episode, and they have to figure out how to integrate them into society some way that's productive and not chaotic. And like that would be fun. That would be
a slam dunk for Disney Plus, man. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I would watch that, but it's going to be expensive. It's an expensive series to use that style of animation. On episodes.
I'm all for having more things filmed in Hawaii. So go for it. Do it up.
There you go.
Like it's amazing. What is funny, Frank? I actually thought what you were going to ask about when you talked about Hawaii was Jurassic World. Like I thought that's where you're going for. So I was fully ready to talk about that. Didn't even think about Lilo and Stitch being there, but yeah, take it away on Jurassic World.
Jurassic World, we're heading to a new island. This is the island where they did all the experiments on it, and coming out July 2nd. Now, I've heard a lot of people who are like, I'm done with the Jurassic franchise. I don't care anymore. I just can't give it up, and so I'm always rooting for it. And this one, I think the way that they're bringing that story is so much smaller. We're like, hey, we're gonna go to an island. It's the King Kong story, basically. We're gonna go. It's just gonna be a lone group. Nope, we don't know who's gonna survive. It will only be probably two of them, and they're trying to collect DNA. The only thing that worries me that we got a lot more in this new trailer is the mutated dinosaur thing. That's like, it's cloaked in red whenever we see it. It looks like it is actually red. To me, it looks like it has the body that looks closer to like a gorilla. And I'm like, don't jump the shark with that thing. Bring this smaller, make the T-Rex the big threat. Like that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it looks good, and I haven't had too much Jurassic World yet. So I'll keep watching them until there's one so bad I'll walk out or something like that. But so far, it's definitely not too much. But like you're saying, like I hope they don't mess it up with this new hybrid or whatever it is. I think the bigger threat is like go small, go hive mind. Like there's some kind of killer bee or something like that was prehistoric. That maybe it's the size of a hummingbird. Yeah, something like really, but that's more, I don't know. You don't have, there's no way to control it. You can't nuke it if it's a hive of something. So I don't know. They could fly overhead with bombers and bomb these dinosaurs and then come scoop up some DNA after it's dead and problem solved. But I don't know. Obviously, they didn't have me in their writing staff when they planned their,
They blew
their
it.
execution.
Yeah. huge miss. Okay.
Yeah, it looked good though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just going to say, like, okay, I love the cast. I think this is a fire cast. I think the visuals look awesome. A lot about this trailer is it's a really well done trailer. I'm like excited for it, but I'm also the person that's out on the Jurassic World series.
Yeah.
Like it lost me after the first Chris Pratt one, which I thought was okay. It never kind of got me back, even with the old cast coming. I started that movie when it hit Peacock and I was watching it. I was like, man, I don't know why I'm just not interested in this. And I never finished that movie. And so it's like, yeah, I know you're really excited about it, Frank. My buddy Drake, who's his favorite movie of all time, favorite franchise, Jurassic Park, I mean. And he's so stoked about it. But for me, it's just like, I don't know. I'm just not super hyped about it. You know, with that being said, of all the other things being so good, I don't know. Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know if I'm going to have to see more or like, yeah, if you could try to sell me on this trailer, what do you think?
The thing that sold it to me is the little boat they got. It's the only thing going out to that island. You don't see multiple planes. You don't see a helicopter landing into a well protected helicopter lot. We don't see any of that. It's just one boat that's immediately surrounded by big alligator dinosaurs. And like, it's everybody on that boat. It's the only people that are going on that island. And there's a kid that's on board. You're like, okay, that kid's going to barely get out of there. That sold it to me. There's another one where we see a T-Rex like biting into the river trying to get him. That's actually from the first book that they didn't put into the Jurassic Park movie. And we actually just covered that over on CA. And we talked about that scene actually. They actually are putting it into this one. So it's like, okay, they're going to the source material. The original writer for the first movie is the one writing this movie.
Oh, okay. Wow.
There
now
are
you said
definitely
that.
reasons to be excited about this.
Holy crap. Okay. You just made my excitement level jump up like 10 points. That's pretty freaking cool. Because the first movie we talked about it again. Yeah. On CA, perfect movie. I was watching it like on my iPad in a hotel room and just like, God, this movie's so good. Just saying that the whole time. All right. All right. You sold me. I'm on board now.
just the visuals of like this lone boat heading out to this island. To me, it's like that feels like the stakes actually matter instead of being like, oh, this is a functioning park and they break loose. You're entering their world. They own this world. Humanity doesn't have any control here. And so that sounds fun to me.
That does.
Cool. And that'll be out July 2nd.
Oh,
Let's talk about Mission Impossible. This is going to be the final Mission Impossible, which I don't fully believe that because, you know, he's not going to stop. Are you guys Mission Impossible fans?
Not really.
Dalton's face says it all.
I know. It's like, I haven't seen like the last two I think that came out, so I'm way behind.
The best two.
I didn't watch the last one either, to your point, John, but like I am a fan now because we watched it on Challenge Accepted, which you challenged me to, and I was like, this is a great movie. And it was well done. It's a great crafted story, and like he's every bit the action hero that, you know, we think he is. He's so cool in it. And this trailer, he starts off running again, but I didn't watch the last one, so maybe I shouldn't talk.
Yeah. To me, they're never miss. Even the worst Mission Impossible, which I can't even think, probably number 3 really, but they're all super good in the fact that they're just like solid, well-crafted stories. Like we were saying, the practical effects. We know that these stunts are actually happening. We already saw he's actually hanging from a biplane on this one. He's really doing that. And I have such respect for good cinema like that. Like this is one of those things where it's like, you know, when we're looking at like the Fantastic Four stuff or we're looking at the Thunderbolts stuff or whatever, you know, we see the CGI, we reckon with it. We have source material that we're bouncing off of. It doesn't feel original though. And while this franchise has been going on for a long time, there's like a 10th movie or something like that. It just feels like it's like well-crafted summer blockbuster movies. It's a lot of the reasons people like Top Gun, going back to Tom Cruise on that, you know, it's just like, this is a blockbuster built to be that. And that's what I love about these things. Like this is the movie I was telling Jonathan, you got to see this in IMAX. It's the only way to watch these movies. And yeah, that it's just a visual feat and then like a solid story. I think honestly 007 needs to return to that. They've kind of like lost it a little bit with that last one, Quantum of Solace, I think it was. So I'm always for it. Ethan Hunt, he's a badass. So, of all the trailers, what are you most hyped for based off the trailers that we got yesterday?
I'm gonna say Jurassic World for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Fantastic Four because it was the first trailer. I mean, it was this week, but I've been anxiously excited to see this world and to see like a living, breathing, fantastic world that looks so different than ours, and yet, there are some familiar notes, whatever. I think that was really cool. I'm excited for the world that they're starting.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I'm copying you on this one. Like it, out of all the trailers we've watched this year, like the trailers in themselves are an art form. You've talked about it on this show, Frank, but it's like there's so many elements to the Fantastic Four trailer. Don't get me wrong. Mission Impossible, insane stunts. Jurassic World, the dinosaurs look super cool. Like Lilo and Stitch. Well, Stitch is still cute and menacing. Like all of that stuff is there, but the amount of different things that you get from the Fantastic Four trailer, the heart of the characters, the setting that's completely unique, the CGI, the sadness in the thing, the drama from seeing Invisible Woman kind of fade in and out of Reed Richards' arms. It's just like, holy crap. And then Galactus steps on there and just covers New York. You're like, this is insane. Wild that we even got here. And then we have this cast of actors, but yeah, it looks like it's just going to transport you into like a completely different world. And I'm so excited to just step into this world, even for one movie, sadly, before it gets completely blown up. Yeah.
We don't know. Maybe the MCU gets sucked into this world. You never know.
Maybe the dude, what if at the end of this, they see like the 616 Earth coming from space? Like you literally just see it. That'd be interesting.
That happens in one of the comics where like the planets actually collide.
Yeah. Beginning of Secret Wars, I think, for Jonathan Hickman.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh my God. Whoa. This made me even more excited.
Man. All right. Let's head over to our interview with Braxton Cosby to talk about his Unbound work. Today, I'm joined by Braxton Cosby, writer of many books, including Broken, the Young Hellions series. How you doing, Braxton?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on, Frank. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm happy to speak with you. Can you tell us a little bit about Broken and this wonderful series you're making?
Yeah, it's a dystopian young adult series. Basically, it's the year 2035, all-out nuclear war. Nobody knows who started the war, but they know it just happened. 70% of the population is wiped out. That's human, plant, and animal. The remaining survivors go to the coastlines for fresh water and trying to survive. This one military conglomerate kind of comes to the forefront. And since money no longer has any power, humans become a viable currency. So it's a class-based system of slavery is reenacted. And people, basically the establishment actually takes people and trades them for currency. So this group is an organization that's global, and they basically just take people and trade them, and that's it. They have areas divided up into precincts that are run by magistrates and judges. And Kisa finds herself, she's the main character here, finds herself in a slave pod of one of the settlements down in Savannah, Georgia. And she's been separated from her parents, and she is now a surrogate parent to her little brother, Kieran, who's 11 years old, and Kisa's 16. So you can imagine that a teenage girl being thrown into all this turmoil with her world turned upside down in this dystopian post-apocalyptic world is now being just challenged on all sides to try to just even survive. After the nuclear fallout has kind of blown across the earth, people actually have ingested the ashes of the fallout. So there's three consequences of taking in too much of the nuclear fallout. One is you become mad. So we have all these madmen that are kind of ravaging, pillaging the land for resources, killing people on sight. Those are called hoarders. Mm-hmm. Other people go crazy and turn to mindless beasts, and those are our zombies in our world. And we call them ashers because they've ingested the ashes. And then 1% of the population actually develops extrasensory perception, ESP, and those are called alphas. And Kisa is starting to have dreams and visions of the future, starting to hear rumblings of this resistance order that's trying to overthrow the establishment. And now the question is she one of the alphas? So a great story. I got a little love triangle in there. So all the things that you need for a good young adult dystopian story. And it's been great. It's been well received. It ended up getting runner-up for dystopian fiction with the American Legacy Book Awards. It's been the highest category winner for dystopian fiction with the Book Fest Fall Book Awards, and got over 100 reviews on Amazon. And a lot of great people, a lot of people have said a lot of great things about it. So I'm really, really pleased.
Yeah.
It's my 20th book. And my
Woo.
goal, Frank, is always to make my next book that I write my favorite, because I feel like you have to write from the heart, you have to write from the soul, write for the right reasons. And I think if you fall in love with your work, then you'll get other people who will actually love it too. So I've just been grateful and very humbled by the response that we've had so far.
Yeah, there's already a great deal of fandom around your novels, around your books. Speaking of that, it feels, as you're saying it, I'm like, man, this would make a great comic book. Why go novel and written like that instead of comic book? And why did you choose which medium you chose?
Well, you touched on something that's really important for us as Cosby Media Productions. We've been out since 2014, building all of our worlds with different authors. We've got 6 authors who've contributed 18 novels and 5 comic books of superhero fiction to our own superhero world that we've built. It's called the Cosby Media Production Dedicated Superhero Universe, the CMPDSU. So we built that out. We have our own fantasy worlds that have been written by an author named Daniel Payton. He's got 6 books in the Legacy of Dragon Wand saga. We've got James Meservey, who's built his own fantasy young adult world with the Light of Rise saga. So we've got a lot of authors who have contributed fantastic stories to our company. We've published over 30 authors with 60 titles in ebook, paperback, and audiobook format. So right around the turn of 2020, when pandemic was kind of kicking in, I challenged the authors of the superhero fiction, because I've contributed 4 books myself. I said, hey, what are we going to do, man? I feel like we should kind of get into comic books, because we were going to conventions and we were doing really well, selling a lot of our works. But, sometimes people come to the table and go, well, I don't really have time to read. And then we kind of lose an opportunity. So I said, why don't we get comic books into action? I've always dreamed of having my own comic book. And here we are now as a publisher with an opportunity to recruit great talent out there in the indie space to help produce these comic books. And they were all for it. So we ran a Kickstarter. We got all 4 first issue comics funded. And before you know it, within the next year, we had 4 first issue comics that were based on the Cape series that I write, the Metatron series by Lawrence St. John, the Bark series by Daniel Payton, and we also had the Menzuo saga by Keyshawn Dodge. So when we had those, people really responded well. We had these novels, and then we had a comic, and people like them. They would eat the whole thing up. They buy the whole package. They wanted to know more. And I started saying, man, you know what? In order for us to separate ourselves from the rest of the small press publishers out there in the indie space, why don't we become what we call a hybrid publisher? I want to keep telling stories in this way. I want to tell them a little bit in the novel format, the traditional paperbacks, and I also want to tell them in ebook and in comic books. So that's what I did with Broken. Broken book 1 is the novel. Book 2 is a 24-page comic. And book 3, which I just released, is a 60-plus page graphic novel. So I count all of them the same. They're all books as far as I'm concerned, but they're all part of that series, the Young Hellions. And it was great because in the original book, I was able to talk about, bring the setting, the summary of what I told you about what happened. We really dive into the establishment, the antagonists who are working against Kisa with a special interest to her because they think she may be an alpha. Also kind of dove into the hoarders and their lifestyle. And, on the outside, they just seem like wild people, but they actually have an organization in the villages and things that they do. So I kind of dove into that. But I really didn't touch on the Ashers as much as I wanted to. So here I was partnering with this great illustrator out of Brazil named Ram. And I worked with him and he did such a great job. I was like, you know what? Let's feature the Ashers in this one. Let's really give people a lot of great zombie action. Yeah. And I had Julio Caballeros who did our colors and our letters. And it just came together really, really well. So I was so excited to work on book 3, the graphic novel. And in that opportunity, I was able to kind of really put the world of Broken on display. We kind of stretched our arms a little bit more, told a little bit more about the lore of the Deadlands and what goes on there. Got a little bit deeper into Kisa's psyche and talked about mental health, really kind of closed the loose end that had been kind of trickled through books 1 and 2 about where her mind was. And I was able to introduce another set of characters to the fold, a headhunter, which is basically what we call bounty hunters in the Broken universe, and another character that I want to keep under wraps until people read it.
Oh yeah.
Another variant of all these, these people who have been changed by the nuclear fallout. So I just think it's a great series. I'm glad that people are starting to get their hands on it and starting to become a part of what we're building.
Just hearing you talk about it, that passion that's pouring out of you, it's exciting to just, and then the way you're teasing a whole nother thing. And then speaking about the Ashers, that the zombie aspect, what a great call to go with graphic novel for that, because again, visually very exciting to see these Ashers. That sounds cool.
Thank you.
Now, the audience of young adults, you talk about a lot of things. Mental health is wonderful. We got slavery brought up here. Was there any particular aim out of your out of going for young adults that you wanted to show them, teach them a theme?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my thing is resilience, because Keisha is stretched. I mean, really, can you imagine you're just a 16-year-old girl going in high school, all of a sudden this happens. You're separated from the family. You have no guidance. She does have an uncle who's in the settlement with her, but there's an issue that she has with him about her father. So he's kind of estranged from her. So she's really had to grow up rather quickly. Plus, I say, like, she's got this little love triangle going on too. And then the main person who's over all of the in the establishment in her precinct has this kind of creepy connection to her. Yeah. And so all of that she's dealing with, plus having to be this protector of her brother. And honestly, if it was up to Keisha would have ended her life a while ago because of so much stress. But she knows that she has to still be present in order to just be strong for Kieran. So there's a lot. And I think, you know, I have 3 daughters, and I dedicated Broken to them because I kind of have dealt with being that dad, that girl dad, and dealing with the emotions and things that they go through on a daily basis. So I really tried to infuse a lot of their personalities into Keisha just to make it authentic. So it was a huge challenge for me because the book is written from a first-person narrative. So you can imagine a man writing a girl and still being able to try to be as authentic as possible. I did use a lot of voice that I got from them and the tone in which the way that she connects with the other characters.
That's such a good move. Yeah. Using them as an asset. And then also it's a good way to share your perspective with them. And it's a good kind of communication back and forth, even with your daughters. You mentioned that you want to focus on survival, freedom, and identity. And boy, at 16, it's difficult enough with social media, not zombies.
Right.
So how is this world amplifying some of those things that the normal teenager deals with every day?
Well, I think that's one of the things that you've taken out all of their normal function, right? Mm-hmm. We know they're on all the social media platforms. They're on YouTube. They're, as soon as they got a question, they go on the internet, they search something, they use AI. None of that is here any longer. And so now you've got to learn how to sit and really deal with a lot of the challenges and the things that are in your face. Also deal with how it's tearing up the people around you as well, because Keisha does befriend quite a few people in her slave pod. They kind of, the establishment sections people and groups them off based on their ages, so she's really with a bunch of 15 and up agers of her own. And so meeting these new friends, dealing with them, the losses that they've had, the challenges, and this is scary, going up against this huge military conglomerate. Where do you even start trying to figure out how to overthrow them and even get connected to this quote unquote, whispers of the resistance that are out in the deadlands. So this is a huge undertaking. And I think that's what makes the story great is that, it just kind of teaches people, hey, even with overwhelming circumstances, what really matters is as friends and basically being authentic to yourself. And no matter what, continuing to do what is right and following your heart, so all of that is in there and it's laid out. And I feel like it's a great messaging and sounding board for young people as a book to read. Yeah.
Let's get some rapid fire questions in to close us out. What is your favorite superhero?
I'm always a toss-up, and I kind of do it as fair as I can. I go Marvel, it's Wolverine, DC is Batman.
You can't go wrong with the hits. They're amazing for a reason. Yeah. Outside of your book, what other book is your favorite book that maybe inspired you to make your work?
Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury.
Nice. Yes.
And that was my beginning, obviously dystopian fiction. I mean, how could you not go with that?
Yeah.
I do love Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Mm-hmm. And I did love Veronica Ross' Divergent. Talking about young adult writing, that was my inspiration when I did Star-Crossed.
I love that series, and I wish the movie landed it as good as the book did.
The movie, the part 1 was great. I was like, yes,
part 1 is perfect,
amazing. Yeah. Part 2 was okay. I was being stretched. part one of book 3 was horrible, and I was like, this is stop, and they did.
Lastly, if Kisa can join either the Justice League or the Avengers, where should she go and why?
It's gonna be the Justice League. Unfortunately, I am a DC kid. I grew up on DC, really. I mean, I looked at the Sunday funnies and I got introduced to a little bit of Marvel stuff. And of course, Spider-Man has amazing friends. I'm kind of dating myself, my age-wise. But when I came home from school every day, the Justice League was on. I'm talking about like the Wonder Twins and Batman and Superman and all of them. So I just grew up as a DC kid. So definitely I would put my character in there because I think she would do really amazing with Wonder Woman as a mentor. And I even think that she would kind of do well running around with the Young Titans.
Yeah. Oh, Titans would be good. I'm also seeing some I would love to see the dialogue between her and Hawkgirl too. I think that would be really good dialogue between those two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Braxton, where could everybody meet you online? Where are you posting the most?
I tell people all the time, go to the Central Hub, www.cosbymediaproductions with an S.com. There you'll find out about our comic imprint, Star Child Comics. You'll get to learn about the CMP DSU a little bit more. We have all of our comic books on sale online if you want to get the floppy copy. There's also links to everything that takes you to Amazon. You don't have to buy from us, but you can read about all the stories and the synopsises and everything, and you can take the link right to Amazon or Barnes & Noble where our books are sold as well and pick up copies there. And we even have the links for X, Facebook, and Instagram for all of our social media. My links in there, Cosby Media Productions and Star Child Comics.
All those links will also be in the description, guys. So go ahead and start clicking now as we're talking. Braxton, I really appreciate you coming over here and sharing your world with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. And you guys are who keep us motivated. So thank you so much for supporting small press indie publishing.
Let's get back to this. We're going to be finishing things off with our recommendations. I'll start us off. I'm going to be recommending ElfQuest. I'm sure I've talked about it 100 times on the show, but they're re-releasing the originals in hardback, beautiful covers, starting March 4th. ElfQuest is a wonderful franchise. It's a very old school fantasy comic book franchise that I've been reading since the 90s, and you could actually read them on the website for free. Everything that they've got that's from the old days. But they're going to be re-releasing the original ones on March 4th. So you guys can go to Amazon or their website or Dark Horse Comics, I believe, and pre-order it now if you want to. It's $30, but it comes with it's 200-page, beautifully done. And so check out ElfQuest if you guys haven't yet. If you want that old school fantasy comics, that's the way to go.
Nice.
All right, what's our next recommendation?
I've been on Apple TV lately. I'm on an Apple TV kick, and I've been watching Mythic Quest, which is so good. I don't know why I haven't given it a shot until now. There's just so much good stuff to watch, but if you haven't watched it, check it out. It reminds me so much of the movie Grandma's Boy, but a series, with great cast. So definitely got to check it out.
Yeah. Have you dove into Severance?
Oh yes. I'm up to date on that. That's so good too.
Okay, so that was going to be my recommendation, which I'm sure a lot of people know it, but it was crazy. Over the weekend, I was talking about it. People were like, I haven't watched that yet. I was like, are people still not checking out Severance? That blows me away. So yeah, Severance season 2 has been phenomenal week in, week out. It you want to talk about a show that adds more questions than answers in a good way, not in a way that just pisses you off, but in a way where you're like, oh my God, what does this mean? I feel like Severance does that so good. And so every time one thing gets answered and another, it asks 5 more questions on top of that. So I think that would be the recommendation. And from Image Comics, Radiant Black is doing an audio series right now with the cast of Boy Meets World. They are the voice actors for it. But yeah, they have an audio book out right now from the Radiant Black universe or from the Massiverse universe, which is really cool. I need to check it out.
Did it already release?
I'm pretty sure it came out.
I just saw the trailer for them doing the catch up,
right?
With the Boy Meets World cast, and it was oh God, they are doing great with the voice. So yeah, I'll try to find that clip and at least share that as well.
I know. I'm like, can you just turn that into a show? I'll watch that. That looks insane.
This last Severance was so John Turturro was so good in it that I was I want to go watch Oh Brother Where Art Thou because of him. And then I put that thread post out that's doing pretty well over on Challenge Accepted. But I was just that dude is incredible. It's crazy.
So good. So underrated, right? And
Absolutely.
I appreciate now he's getting his flowers because
Yeah.
You know, what I knew of him growing up was Transformers, like the third one, where he gets peed on by a robot. And you're like, this guy's an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, I hated it. But now seeing his breadth of work and seeing him in so many things like Severance, Where Art Thou, and also like the Batman, dude is amazing.
Miller's Crossing, he's really good in that too. He works with Coen Brothers and he does such good work with it. So
good pull.
Yeah. All good suggestions, guys. Okay, that is it for us this week. Again, guys, check us out on Patreon. Again, we're gonna be doing early releases and free movies over there. And if you got free time, which you do because you're listening to a podcast right now, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. They help us a ton. We've been stuck at 64 reviews on Apple for far too long, so be our 65. We really appreciate it. Maybe we'll get to 69. Okay. Anyways.
We can dream.
We can dream. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Aloha.